interact with people, but I guess I'm going to have to let them know who I am on the inside because clearly they're not attracted to the outside. But you know, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. So we decided to get public speaking lessons, and we went to Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters and the local junior college to learn how to speak and how to present. But there was just too much history and too much baggage in San Francisco, and so we decided to move to a small town in Colorado called Butte, Colorado. And there he spoke to people and he interacted and he started talking about how the public sector and the private sector and the schools and community needed to work together to make the community great. And he started to get a following. And someone asked him to run for mayor. And he ran for mayor and was elected mayor of Crested Butte, Colorado. From there, he started to get a reputation, and people started talking about this guy and started asking him to speak in different places. And he did. And he spoke at the local Chamber of Commerces and Rotary clubs and Kiwanis and so forth. And he decided he was getting so many requests to speak that he was going to learn how to fly. And so he went and he got his pilot's license, and he purchased an airplane. Now, before I go any further, I will say that he did get a pretty good financial settlement from the laundry company. He was flying all over Colorado, presenting his ideas of the community and the public and private sector working together. And he was coming back from Northern California one evening, and his plane got caught in a tailwind. And he had to make an emergency landing, and he crashed. He was rushed to Denver Memorial Hospital, and he was paralyzed from his waist down. He was lying in bed at the hospital, and a friend of his from San Francisco came to visit him. And he walked in the room, and his name is W. Mitchell. And he walked in the room, and he looked at him, and he goes, W. Mitchell, look at you. Lord knows how you survived the fire accident, but now you're paralyzed. Don't you want to just say enough is enough? Don't you want to just call it quits? And W. Mitchell looked right back at him and said, you know, before this accident, there were literally 5,000 things that I could do in a day. Now, there's only 2,000. Do I focus on the 3,000 I can't do, or the 2,000 I can do? Because you see, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Let me tell you the end of the story. W. Mitchell lives in a small little town by the name of Kona, Hawaii. He flies all over the world, first class. He said he has met the most amazing people. He has seen the most incredible sights. He has witnessed the most phenomenal events. And he says it's all because I believe it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Now I have to tell you, I'm sitting in this audience, and I'm stunned. I'm stunned and reflecting on how bummed out I was because I was sitting in traffic. And then I hear this man speak, and sitting in his wheelchair with his face disfigured, telling us how lucky and how fortunate he is to live the life he lives. And then he goes on to say, and quite honestly, my story isn't even a good story. He says, let me tell you about someone I met during my travels. And he tells us the story about a small town farm boy by the name of John Thompson. Now, some of you may have heard this story because it got national attention. It was on People magazine and in the national wires and all over. But John Thompson was a small town farm boy working on his parents' farm, and he was baling hay. Now, I don't know too much about baling hay, but I will tell you that as it was described, he was taking his hay and putting it on this metal platform. And once there was enough hay on the platform, it was weight triggered, and it would go whoop, whoop, and then metal wires would go whoop, and actually bale the hay. So John Thompson was working in the barn, baling hay, and his shirt got caught on the metal platform. And so he leaned on the metal platform to pull out his shirt, and what he did, he triggered the weight mechanism. It went like this, and the metal wires came around and ripped both of his arms off at the shoulders. He's standing there, he's in shock. He starts to scream, and no one can hear him. He then starts to run to his family's farmhouse, which is about a mile up the road. He gets to the house, and no one is home. He tries to open up the front door with his mouth, and he cannot do so. He picks himself up, he goes to the back of the house, and he opens up the screen door with his tongue and his mouth. He gets in the house, he attempts to dial his cousin who lives about a mile away with his nose. He's not able to do so. He goes into the kitchen, he gets a pencil, he comes back, and he dials his cousin. He gets his cousin on the phone, he says, "Hurry, please, quick, there's been a horrible accident. I need help, please send an ambulance." He then hangs up the phone. When asked why he had to hang up the phone, he said, "Because we have a party line, and if I didn't hang up the phone, my cousin wouldn't have been able to call out." He then picks himself up, and he goes and lies in a cold porcelain bathtub. When asked, "Why did you lie in a bathtub?" he said, "I didn't want to get any more blood on my mom's carpet." The ambulance came, they picked him up, they took him to the hospital, he redirected them to the barn house where they picked up his arms and then brought him to the hospital. Let me tell you the end of this story. John Thompson is currently 38 years old. He lives a perfectly normal life. He has 75% use of his arms. He can't go all the way here, but he can go to here. He drives and is fully functioning. Now, this story got national attention. And when John Thompson was released from the hospital, there was cameras and reporters and magazines and, all sorts of things. And as he was being wheeled out, a reporter with a microphone came to him and said, John Thompson, how does it feel to be a hero?" And John Thompson looked at him and said, "I'm no hero." And the reporter said, "No hero," and recounted the story that I just shared with you. And John Thompson said, "No, I'm no hero. I just did what anybody else could have done if they were in my situation." And then W. Mitchell ended his comments by saying, "You see, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it." I share these stories with you because it's your attitude that will be the fuel of your success. I know the future is bright, and each one of you in your own right will go on to achievements and milestones beyond anyone's expectations, including your own. And two, along that journey, you will be faced with adversity and opposition. How you handle those challenges, whether personally or professionally, will guide and define the success you achieve. Hopefully, these 12 words will serve you well and will provide an outlook that will strengthen your resolve no matter what comes your way. And with that, I wish you all a heartfelt congratulations. Right now, right here, this is your moment. Congratulations and thank you very much.